Good afternoon.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me? And
Yes, we
see
can hear
me?
you nice and clear.
Oh, great. Good afternoon. How are you going?
Good, thank you. Why
Yeah.
don't we start with some introductions? So my
Good.
name is David Sheffield. I'm the ICT practice lead
Mm-hmm.
for LSSA and RDS.
Yeah.
I'm Marie Christinus. I'm the business architect here.
Great. Great to meet you.
And I'm Tamsin Woods. I'm a Senior Business Analyst here.
Hi. Hi, Tamsin. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So now, just before we dive in, is Noah the correct name to call you?
Yeah. That's right.
Excellent,
Yeah.
great. All right. So the plan for today then, what we'll do is I'll start by telling you a little bit about our organisation and what we do. And then Maria and Tamsin will tell you a little bit more about the role that we're looking to fill, about the Senior Business Analyst role.
Yeah.
And then if you've got any questions, you can ask us. And
Sure.
then we've got a set of questions here that we will work through with you, if that's okay.
Yeah. That's all right.
Excellent, cool. So let me start by telling you a little bit about our organisation. I'm going to actually talk to you about two companies. So I'll start by talking to you about Land Services SA. So LSSA was established in 2017 and then won the tender to provide the services of the Land Titles Office and the valuation role on behalf of the state government. So what that actually means in practice is that the state government privatised the Land Titles Office and the function there, and LSSA is the private company that won the tender to provide those services. So we're not a government body. We are a private company, but we're offering a statutory service on behalf of the South Australian government.
Okay.
And so LSSA as a whole has about 190 staff, most of them in Adelaide, but we have staff up in Darwin and over in Perth as well. Now, within LSSA acquired a software company called Relational Data Systems in 2020. And so Relational Data Systems was a software company that specialised in land management software. We were looking after the land title systems in the Northern Territory, in South Australia and in the ACT as well. And LSSA were our biggest client. So I came with RDS, me and the other 37 staff all came over with the acquisition and all became part of the LSSA group. So, and as part of that, RDS became part of the LSSA ICT team. The ICT team within LSSA is now up to about 90 people. Again, most in Adelaide, but we have 14 in Darwin and 7 over in Perth. As well as delivering services internally to our stakeholders within Land Services SA, we also deliver similar services to the Northern Territory government, to the ACT government, and now to the Western Australian government as well, which is what has led to us opening up our office in Perth. We just started that this last year now. In April last year, we opened our office over in Perth. And that team is up to about 6 or 7 now. Over the next 12 to 18 months, we foresee that team is going to have to continue to grow to at least 15 to 20 people and possibly more. So that's why we're looking to continue to add to our team over there.
Yeah.
There you go. I've said lots of words there. You got any questions about any of that?
No, pretty clear. Yeah. No questions.
Excellent. All right, then I might let Maria and Tamsin talk to you a little bit about our Senior Business Analyst role, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
Great, thanks, Dave. So we have an office in Western Australia, and we work closely with Land Services WA over there. We're looking for a business analyst over there who really has a broad range of experience. The type of, and we don't have any in-house analysts over in Perth at the moment, so the successful candidate really would be working obviously collaboratively with our team here, but would be one of few employees over in Western Australia. So we're looking for someone who has broad experience, client engagement, has done client engagement work before. It could be a mix of doing detailed user requirements, as well as doing some work around scoping or the higher level, even sort of business case type of work. So it really depends on what the clients are asking for, looking for. But in all instances, there is someone around who can always assist So we work quite collaboratively here as a team. So there's always help available if needed, and we work very closely in teams as well.
Yeah.
So so really we're looking for a senior BA who has a wide level of experience, is happy to work individually or in teams, and the work could be varied. So really that's all I can really tell you about the work over there at the moment. I don't know if you have any questions.
Yeah, it's nice, exciting.
Yeah, it can be, absolutely.
It's gonna be busy.
It will be,
Yeah.
it certainly will be busy,
Yeah.
and I think it will get busier too. So, and it is exciting because it is probably, we are growing the team over there. So it's a good time to come in.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could start with some questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get the interview going if you're happy to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Just wondering what motivated you to apply for this role?
Yeah, actually, I came across the job advert on Seek, and looking at the job responsibilities and what's required, I feel like my role in different organizations and the skills that I've acquired over the years would be very valuable. As you said, I've worked in different organizations in different continents. My own country, Nigeria, so I've worked with payment companies, I've worked in insurance organization, I've worked in energy organization, and hardware technology development organization as well. My current role, the one I'm looking to finish up my contract with HP, is really about helping HP deliver unique set of device to a market segment. So basically, my role was really around gathering requirements, sitting with the client, understanding what they want, factoring their budget, their specifications, what they want in the HP device. And then I work with these Scrum teams to detail out these requirements in form of epics, user stories, provide clarification on client needs as needed, through collaboration with the client as well. Just a form of needs analysis with the client, and then ensure that the team have everything set up for them to be able to deliver the solution. And that was a contract role, and it's been going for about 9 months now. We've successfully delivered the product to the client in India, and then we're handing over that solution to the client. So prior to that, I've worked in InterSwitch. That was in Nigeria. So basically, I was a business analyst, a team of business analysts for a business line that's focused on including the financial excluded people in Nigeria. So what that means in Nigeria, they are part of the country where they don't have easy access to financial services. That means banks are not able to open their bank branches in all parts of Nigeria. So what we were doing in the company was to build solutions, to bridge that gap. We were using technology to solve that problem. So we were building financial solutions tailored for those people who have low-end phones, and then they would be able to do transactions using USSD by just dialing a code, and they can pay for their bills, they can transfer funds, all those financial services we were able to build. Prior to that, I've also worked in a business process automation company. So what we would do was to walk into our partner, which are mostly financial institutions like bank. We would look at their processes and try to optimize it. So we try to remove the non-value adding processes. So we're optimizing their business processes. And one of such process we optimized was the account opening process, which was very problematic because they needed their customers come into the bank branches to fill in form before they can open accounts. So what we did was to analyze the process and then build solution that we automated the workflow process where customers can fill online forms and then send it through, and the internal processes kick on, and then it's more efficient. So that really reduced queues in the bank, and made the whole process efficient. So productivity increased, and then they were able to get more market share. So I started my career as a QA. So that's just to demonstrate that I'm also very adaptable. I'm able to test, so I can perform user acceptance testing, coordinate that session, coordinate workshop session. So you will see my skills shine in terms of my communication skills, my stakeholder management skills, my problem solving skills, my critical thinking skills. So I'm able to also document this requirement that, through interviews, through workshop, through sessions, that requirement gathering sessions that I have with clients, customers, or internal stakeholders, and really understand the business need and document it. You mentioned business case. I'm able to, debug issues with the process, services, and see opportunities to improve the product or services, as the case may be, and then document that, and translate it to the technical team. So I've got 2 masters in computer science, advanced computer science, and IT. So I'm also very technical, so I can speak technical language, understand basic programming. So I'm able to communicate effectively with development teams. So that's also one of my skills that is really valuable. Yeah, so I think that's a summary about my overview about me. I'll be happy to talk more as we proceed.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So have you worked in these roles that you've described? Have you worked as an individual, or is it within a team?
So in HP, I worked as
BAs?
in HP, I had my own team. I had 3 Scrum teams focused on software, hardware, and the firmware for HP for the device. So I was the lead BA. I had an intern BA that I was working with. So I would give guidance on how to when we have sessions, workshop session or requirement gathering session with the client, I would guide on documenting that. So it was a team of 2, but I was leading that effort. In my previous role with InterSwitch, I had one business line, which was a financial inclusion business. I was the only BA leading that effort, and then for the previous company I talked about, the only BA as well, the business process automation company. So mostly I've worked as the only BA for the team, but of course I collaborate with the development team and the business users and other stakeholders. And yeah. So one of the company was a consulting company, so we would also interface with other BAs for the banks and then other financial institutions. Yeah.
So Maury, it sounds like where you were working in a team, you were working in a cross-functional team rather than in a team of business analysts. Is that correct?
Yeah, mostly it's a cross-functional team. So I have my dev, my tester, my DevOps engineer, my solution architect. And for the consulting company I worked in, I was the BA for the company. We were contracted to optimize processes, as I talked about it earlier, for banks. So, but the banks have BAs, internal BAs. So I would, collaborate with them as well on initiatives. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Maria.
No, that's okay. What do you think are your key strengths, Noah?
A couple of them actually. Communication, I'm able to really communicate, not just from business perspective. I'm able to also communicate effectively with the technical team. So I know when to adapt my communication to suit management, senior management. I know when to talk about, technical jargon, as we say. So that's really key, because you can gather out the requirement you want, but if you don't know how to really explain to the development team, your product you might likely not build the right product at the end of the day. So communication is key, problem solving, and I'm really able to really investigate processes, see opportunities for improvement where applicable, make recommendations, and champion the cause. Yeah, I'm also very warm, so I think I get along with people. Of course, I'm not able to get along with everyone, but I try my best to at least, be professional and build relationship with people. I think over for me, my personal opinion and my career so far, I think my personal relationship at work has also helped me a lot, in confronting or delivering in different difficult situations. So sometimes people will move mountains for you just because they like you and you have a good relationship. So I'm a people's person, I would say.
People's person, I think that helps when you're a BA. I think it really helps if you like people.
Yeah,
definitely. Tamsin, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah. So this one, thinking, Noah, sort of what would you consider some of the key behaviours or characteristics of a senior BA?
I think you need to be able to manage stakeholders. There's a language you need to employ when you're actually having conversations with top business stakeholders. Like I mentioned, you can't be going too technical. I think many times when I've been in those situations, I'll be able to tailor my conversation, and that's when you can get the best input from those sort of stakeholders and really adapt your conversation again when you're speaking to technical teams. So as a senior BA, you need to be able to speak to people, like speak to different stakeholders. You need to be able to document in a concise and clear manner so that people can understand what you're trying to say. You need to maintain your professional outlook. You need to be professional every time, and then you need to be able to debug the business needs. Like I mentioned earlier, you need to be able to understand what the business needs and recognize the opportunity to optimize that need, so you can see a problem and then try to make recommendations to address this problem. So that would ultimately translate to growth, increase productivity, and then it's a skill. It's different from just speaking to people and documenting requirements. So I think of course, management, you're going to be working with people, so you need to be able to manage, delegate where applicable. So those are some of the skills or the key responsibilities of a senior BA, in my opinion. But definitely there are more, but those are the ones that come to my mind now.
Yeah, great. I might just ask another one. Then, unless Marie, you had a question on that.
Not on that, no.
No. So, I guess from digging sort of into a BA role, what are some of the challenges that you would typically face, and how might you deal with them?
Oh, you mean in my experience as a BA, right? Yeah. Definitely one very common one, dealing with difficult stakeholders, right? So I've been in situations where you really need something, requirement. You need to understand what how a change will affect a department, and then you can't just get a hold of the stakeholders there. So you need to actually work your way through that and try to find the best way. In my opinion, or in my experience rather, I've had to deal with difficult stakeholders, with different conflicting priorities. Stakeholder A wants us to do this, stakeholder B feels that something else is more important. So you need to prioritize, and then where everything is priority, it's difficult to please all the stakeholders. So I look at their influence, their power, their interest, in analyzing those stakeholders and try to find a balance, right? You can't please everyone, as I've said earlier, but you need to be tactful in finding how to manage all different interests that you would face. So I would say conflicting priorities is one of the biggest thing I have had to deal with. Prioritizing different initiative or features, also because different stakeholders want you to actually get their work done first, and that can lead to conflict, so you need to really manage them. So what else? Resourcing. Everything is always urgent everywhere, so and then of course you don't have the resources to deliver everything at time. So if not, we'll be out of job if we can finish everything. So it's also always a challenge to get the resources to work on all the initiative all at once. So that ties back into priority, so prioritizing. What else?
Just going back on difficult stakeholders. How do you manage difficult stakeholders? What are the sort of things you might do to assist when they're being difficult or get through the work you need to do? How do you manage them?
It depends. Absolutely depends on the situation, right? What constitutes the difficulty varies, right? It might be priorities, as I mentioned. It might just be that a stakeholder is not interested in anything you're doing in terms of your team, not interested in, or they are not involved enough. So there are different, levels of difficulty. You need to find the root cause of that difficulty. So if for example, if a stakeholder is if proving difficult because of priorities, for example, they want their feature done, and maybe your team is already preoccupied working on something that's equally prioritized or important. Now you need to balance that by speaking to the stakeholder. It also starts by communicating, trying to understand the pain point, why they need this now, why it can't wait, and then find a resolution. Maybe you pick it up next if that's the next priority, or you reach an agreement really. So I would say it depends on the situation, but at the end of the day, whatever the situation is, you need to find the root cause, and then try to provide recommendations to address those root causes.
Okay. Have you been required to work across multiple projects
at
the same time, or have you just mostly had a single project to do at a time?
So I talked about, I've been working on different projects. So in my time at InterSwitch, we have different initiatives and then you need to use your prioritization technique. The prioritization technique we used in InterSwitch was Moscow and ranking. So basically, we try to rank initiative in terms of the must have, should have, could have, and try to also rank that, because you can have many should have and could must have. So you need to also rank that so you can get the priority, and then have the different Scrum teams work on those different initiatives. So there are different projects which we call initiatives because they have different value to drive growth for the business. So and that is assigned to the different teams that I was supporting at the time. So yeah, but for HP is more focused on the overall focus is to deliver a device, a unique device for a market segment. So there are different components that we need to worry about: the software, the hardware, and the firmware part. So there are different layers. So yeah.
So no, just on that. So I guess from what you're doing at the moment, most things are prioritised projects or initiatives, and then you're using Moscow is done as a broader approach to prioritising the projects and initiatives, and then the higher prioritised initiatives are the ones that you look at, but you're kind of more looking as a singular sort of activity or project at a time. You're not sort of perhaps running a couple of different projects or across a couple of different projects or initiatives at once.
So to answer you, projects are different for different organizations. So what I'm calling initiative earlier might be a project in a different organization structure. So I am using initiative because the organization is more agile, so we have different scrum teams, right? In other organizations, those will be called projects for different teams working on those, because they're actually project level, and at the end of the day they have a fixed time and they are supposed to deliver a new product. Now for my experience with HP, if I understand what you were saying, in HP we needed to deliver a product which is an HP device, right? To deliver the device we need to work on different parts of different small projects to deliver that product. So we have the software project that we need to deliver. We have the hardware component, the device, the physical device component, which has different projects in there that we also need to deliver. And we have the firmware, the kernel layer, or the hardware enablement team that will build the drivers, the firmware, and all of that. They also have that team. They will work on different projects there. So it's not just one project, but it's one product that have several projects there. If that, yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Just on, I guess, some of the like business analysis skills. What strategies do you use to elicit requirements and use to gather those requirements? Do you find any more effective than others?
Well, so good question. So it depends. So there are times where one-on-one conversation interviews have worked, to elicit requirement, especially when it's difficult to gather several people. If it's a new product, right? It's new product of different concerns, like different stakeholders have different interests. I would use a workshop so that I can quickly get as much as possible and identify underlying dependencies between those teams, and we can quickly, effectively talk about it and reach an action point or way forward more quickly. But if it's a product we're just optimizing, a project that's maybe already existing, we're just building new features on top of it, it's better to use one-on-one. You know who the key stakeholder is or the SME is, you speak to the person, document the requirement, and then validate it, and then you can communicate that to the team. But if it's a new product, as I mentioned, and have different dependencies, different interests, what I've seen to work is to have like a workshop where you try as much as possible to get this key stakeholder in the room, have the discussion so that we can identify the cross concerns, dependencies, and resolve them. Yeah, because it's easy to miss critical component and dependencies if you just have interviews. And then if the product is designed already, you can use your surveys to get feedback on testing and all of that, or yeah. So I hope I've been able to.
With the workshops and things, and probably really any requirements, solicitation, or even starting out in a piece of work, how do you make sure or go about making sure you've got the right stakeholders involved?
Yeah, definitely. So where there is stakeholder matrix, I would look at that, but again, most organizations do not have that. So you need to really rely on reviewing documentations really. So I look at the product, look at who the impacted stakeholders. I need to analyze document analysis to find the critical stakeholders, and then I discuss and validate. Oh, are these the stakeholders for this product or feature or needs? And then once I'm able to collect that, because really, stakeholder matrix is more effective, but it's just one organization where I've really seen stakeholder matrix. I've not seen any other organization. So so I have to interview, like ask people and then review document to really identify some of these stakeholders. Excuse me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just an extension of that. We've got our strategies to get those requirements, whether they be interview or workshop. We know who we need to speak to. Now, when you actually get those requirements, can you describe the sort of the artifacts or the documents that you actually produce to capture that information?
Yeah, so
how would you capture that information?
So basically, we have, in my previous organization, we have a business requirement template that we use to capture those requirements during workshop. And then we also have Miro board. It's a note, it's a sticker kind of, I don't know if you're familiar. Miro board, it's Miro board. It's like a board where you can put your ideas. So we use that in the virtual setting where you can't really get people into a physical meeting during workshops. We use Miro board. We put the ideation frame where we put all the ideas, and I can collate that and convert that to because in more agile teams, convert that to epics and user stories. So that's for another experience. So I also document use cases, wireframes, just to provide a model or visualize those, translate that requirement and the end-to-end flow of the requirement to the technical teams as well. But more when I was working in a more traditional organization, we had a business requirement template, a functional requirement template, and then we can just add use cases just to enrich the requirement and really provide more information to technical teams. But in an agile team, I then use the Miro board, especially in virtual workshops, Miro board to get all the ideas, validate it, and then convert it to a backlog, which consists of the epics, the user stories.
Have you done a few of those projects where you've had to use that method, like using the Miro board and doing those epics and then the user stories? Have you done a bit of that, or?
Yeah, severally. So I do that, especially after the pandemic. That was the go-to. So we that was when I started. We were researching tools to use, and then we stumbled upon Miro. So it's been a fantastic tool. I use it personally as well for my vision board, what I want to achieve, even my personal tasks. So basically, it's easy. And then I also use it for PI planning. We scale agile in my organization, so where we have all the features or epics we want to work on for a program increment which lasts for 3 months. So we just use that because my last organizations were more agile. So we didn't really focus on BRDs, and so it was more on features, epics, user stories. So and then I'll collate those things, those ideas that have been posted on the Miro board, validate it, and then come up with a backlog item, validate it with the key stakeholders as well, and then break that down with the development team to user stories, and then they're able to implement. Excuse me. Yeah. So that's it basically.
Yeah, okay. So the latest project you've been working on has been more on device configurations.
That was
but you
my
haven't done software development.
that was my experience with HP. And previously I was working on financial application, like mobile apps. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering in what case you used your epics and you used the stories. That's all.
Yeah. So I can tell you, for my InterSwitch role, it was also more agile. So I used the old vision board, Miro board, and then we have the ideation board where you can, all the stakeholders, we talk through overall objective of what we want to achieve as a business, and then encourage people to post their ideas on how we can move achieve that, and then any concerns they have, they put that, and then we determine the risk. We talk about the resourcing needs as well, and then I'm able to draw some flows, wireframes, with visual and likes, and then provide that context to the teams. So
yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Tamsin, do you want to take the next one, or I'm happy to?
Yeah, I think the next one I've got here, I think you probably answered anyway, Noah, and I've got a fairly good indication of the answer, but it was probably just around process maps and process flows. So you've already talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And you're quite adept at that. What software or tools have you used specifically for the process mapping?
Yeah, I've used Visual. I've used Miro. Miro also has that capabilities. I have used Lucy Chart as well for flows and process mapping, user journey mapping, all of that. What else? Yeah, then Jira for my backlog, user stories, and Confluence for documentation, collaboration. Azure DevOps also similar to Jira.
That's fine.
What would I expect? Sorry, what would I expect to see on a process map, Noah? Like, if you were drawing a process map for me, what would be on there?
So, process map contains, the action, the steps, the flow, the decision point, and all these things make up process. So you need to understand the process and then map the journey end to end from start to finish. Yeah.
How do you tie that in with your requirements? Have you done any projects where you've done that?
Yeah, so let's say we want to, so obviously we categorize the requirement. So the requirement will fall under like an initiative, and then we try to map the end to end. How do we achieve end to end of, so for example, let's say account opening process, we want to map that. We map from the start, how do we initiate the account opening process, all the steps involved, the processes, what happens, the exception, and then map that to the end, and then all the requirements that we need to achieve will be mapped to that account opening process. So the process flow will give the dev team or anybody a good understanding of start to finish what should happen. And the requirements can be, functional, non-functional. So it really depends. You just need to categorize it according to the initiative or feature.
So have you done sort of cross-functional process flows? So where it might involve everything like different business areas,
Yeah, that.
different
Okay.
characters or actors
Yeah,
within that
so
process?
I use swim lanes for that. So like let's say customer care team, IT, operations. You know you then start the process. Okay, then talk about the steps. Okay, and then just map that through. Yeah.
Do you want me to go with the next one, Maria, or are you?
Yeah, have you done any work on options papers or business cases at all?
Yeah. I've done business cases in one of my previous experience as well. So I would sit with the stakeholder to understand initiative, justification for that initiative, what the revenue will be for that initiative, the resourcing needs, just come up with that, and the cost to implement, risk, all of those things. And then if it's transaction based, we want to know how many transactions we get per month. If we implement this, how would this improve the business, how much would we make as profit, as revenue, etc. So those are the standard information that I capture in the business case documentation, and then validate that with the business leader, get it approved before we can actually implement that initiative.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, almost sort of close to the edge, but any skills you feel you need to improve on?
Good question. To improve on. Ooh, what would that be? Yeah, I think everybody has to improve on one thing or the other. Maybe. What would that be? Maybe.
If there's not, that's okay. It was just a question.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's always room for improvement in all the skills that I've talked about, really. So I can't say I'm perfect, yeah, but there's always opportunity to improve any skill: communication, documentation, problem solving, analytical. So yeah, I would say all of those skills there's always room to improve.
Right, thank you.
That was a good question.
Well, you might like this one too.
Oh, that's struggle.
So, where you might have a stakeholder group that has lots of ideas or unsure about what they need, how do you go about determining what it is that they want and agreeing on the way forward on scope?
Good. So different stakeholders have different ideas. They can't quite articulate them.
What it is that they want. Yeah, how do you get them down to a scope? How do you bring them down to going, oh, well, we want this, and this, and we want it to do this, and then how do you take all that information and bring it down so that we've got a
again, everything,
what it is that we're actually delivering.
Yeah, for me, everything ties back to the needs analysis. Why are we in this workshop? We don't just gather people to a workshop and say we want to gather a requirement. There's an overarching need that drives that session. So all the ideas have to tie back to the need. If we have many ideas flowing in, we need to then discuss them and validate if they all tie. Of course, they will not all tie into that need. They might just be nice to have, and then when you try to debug it that way or analyze it that way, you'll be able to really sieve out the ones that are not really tying to the need, and then the ones that ties to the overall the business needs, you will then kindly, and because people do not like when you somewhat not prioritize the idea or discard it, so you also have to employ tact to be able to discard those ideas that are not really tying to the business needs. So yeah, that way you have a focus, because everything will sound good, but then you need to clarify, ask question, you can ask the 5 whys, then we can troubleshoot those ideas from that perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just on the business need, Noah. So what if something, perhaps the need isn't 100% clear? So how do you go about defining or clarifying the need, what that core need is, driver?
The business, so again, it's going to tie to the business case, right? So this need, is it a compliance need, or is it a revenue driven need? Like, is it going to add to our bottom line, or it's a compliance, we absolutely have to do this, or then we get fines, or it's an environment need, or it's an infrastructure need. If we don't do this, we can't scale. So basically, when you begin to analyze that way, you have focus. Then yeah, that, I think that was your question. So you can actually find the essence of the need, really, so, and then what it will add to the business, and then that way you can also prioritize, because if you have many business needs, you can also prioritize the ones that are most important. Yeah, the ones that can wait would wait.
Just going to jump ahead a little bit, but what would you do if a colleague or a stakeholder was finding it challenging to understand some of the concepts or the information you were putting forward? What would you do?
Yeah, just have a discussion with the stakeholder. Like, stakeholder, is it in a meeting, or they sent an email or called me, like, say, I don't understand this point? If that's the case, I would call the stakeholder. Let's go over this point you don't understand. It might, again, but going back to what we can improve, might be that it was not documented clearly. So I can try to see from that point of view, and then have a discussion, clarify what I was trying to explain, or the information I was trying to pass to the stakeholder, and then we would obviously reach an agreement or provide needed clarification to the stakeholders, and then I can update the documentation as applicable. So yeah, so basically it's to have a focused discussion with the stakeholder to provide more information about that confused, or that point that's not very clear.
Tamsin, do you have anything else?
Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I was just Tamsin.
Okay.
Nothing in relation to that point, Maria.
Yeah. I think let's have a look.
There probably was one other one, Maria, and I'm not sure if you're going to ask. I might jump in if that's right.
No,
Yeah.
go for it.
So This one's sort of around whether you've provided any training or change management support or have considered it as part of your BA work as part of delivery of a initiative or a project. Is that something you've done before?
Yeah, I remember when we were transitioning from traditional methodology to an agile methodology, getting focused requirement was difficult, and it was impacting on delivery for the team, because during the implementation, stakeholders will come with new requirements and then send it to the dev team, and then impact the current work they're doing. So that would also impact on productivity, and we're not really able to finish anything at that time. So what I did was to not just me, with the product owner and the with the scrum master at the time, to try to find a better way of working, and we moved towards agility. So we started managing our change better. So we had a backlog where we have all those initiative epics and roadmap, and yes, we can respond to change. So we started implementing scrum. So we would commit to a sprint backlog, a sprint goal for a time box period, and then we trained. I was able to work with the scrum master to train our stakeholders on these new ways of working, so this agile way of working, and then we were able to cascade that training to other top level management. So we told them this is the scrum approach, where this is how the change will be accommodated. It's okay, it's not going to come from all the business user, it will come through me. I'll have discussions with them, and then we can adapt during our sprint as applicable, and that became less chaotic. The other part that I've experienced is where we have a CAB, a change approval board. So we would collate all the changes and deliberate on them in change approval board, which had stakeholders, cross-functional stakeholders for different business units, and we would analyze the impact of a change to determine if it's critical, if it's low, if it's priority, its severity level, and really why we want that change, and then deliberate, and then before we can implement the change. That helps with control as well, in one of my other experience. So it was a change approval board for that.
Yeah, familiar with the CAB boards.
Yeah.
I was sort of thinking more though in terms of not so much change during projects, but managing the effect of change when something gets rolled out. So, for example, you've created a new product and you've rolled it out to the market, and it might be an enhancement to that product. Customers perhaps you need to sort of consider maybe how that would be received, whether they might have some difficulties understanding the new product, and therefore the training and things that might go with it. Have you sort of had to do anything around that before?
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked the team that we built a new platform from ground up, as the financial inclusion application we mentioned. So we did trainings with our existing customer on the whole platform, how to use it, web, mobile, and the internal users for the support part of things. And then we were able to socialize or train the customers on how to log change request or issues as it were. They log the issues to the customer care, where they can also call to log an issue, and then I worked on the workflow. Basically, it comes from any queries come from the customer to the customer care, and then they log it on a platform, a CRM platform basically. Then that comes to the operations. They have a first level support. They can investigate the issue and look at database, provide first level support, and then they can send to second level. They can send it to development if it needs development. So, and then we can move it to develop. And then in terms of managing change, so when we've received a change, for example, or we need to fix an issue, we also have a process before we can implement the change. So when we've gone through the development, all of that, before we can deploy the change, there's also controls. We raise change requests, CLs to manage the change, and we ensure that testing has been completed. We've done some checks to be sure that we've done UAT in some cases to be sure that the change will not break something else in application. So, and then we deploy that to production environment where the customer can now receive this change. So there are changes from product level and from the customer level where what I've just described here. So
Great. I think that's the end of our formal questions.
Can I dive in with one off the top?
Please do.
No, what's your longer term career aspiration? Where would you like to go? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, currently I'm positioning myself to really to operate on an executive level. I feel like any company I start working with now, I'm going to be planning to transition to management level. I'm bringing all my experience over the year to really operate on strategy level, right? So and start contributing to organization from a strategic level and defining strategy for 5 years. 5 years, I think strategy should always evolve, but should also maintain some form of stability. So I think 5 years is a good time for strategy. Personally, I'm also testing my skills by building a business. So, and I think about strategy every time. So I think that was also really important. And in 10 years, I should be an household name. I just moved to Australia 6 months ago. So I was previously in the UK for a year. So I feel like now in Australia, where I've planned to settle for the longer time, I'll be able to grow my career and just be a business leader at the end of the day. So hopefully all things.
Thank you. That's all the questions that I had, Maria.
Yeah. Tamsin, anything else?
No, nothing else from me.
No.
In the name of fairness, we should probably give Nora a chance to ask us some questions now. If you've got any.
No, why would we do that? Yeah. Of course.
Just trying to know more about the team composition, if you don't mind, because I think I've really labored the point on my experience about working with development teams. I sense the body language feels like we don't do a lot of development here. I might be wrong. Just want to confirm the assumption.
No. I'm going to jump in there if I can, Noah.
That's all right.
So, as I mentioned at the beginning, LSSA acquired RDS a few years ago, which is a specialist software development company. Software development is our bread and butter. So,
okay.
As a business analyst in our Perth office, you'd be involved in probably 2 distinct styles of projects. And Maria, feel free to correct me once I'm finished on this diatribe if I get off track a little bit. But generally, we have 2 styles of projects. So some of our projects are discovery style exercises where you'd be working closely with a business stakeholder who may be internal or one of our clients. And you'd be working probably in consultation with one of our solution architects and that stakeholder to identify a business problem, propose a solution, come up with an estimation of what it would take to implement that solution, and the output of that discovery exercise is a proposed solution and an estimate, and potentially a project initiation document or something like that. So that's one style of project, is that discovery style. The other style is a software implementation project, and so that's where you'd be paired up with a software engineering team. So developers, project manager, business analysts like yourself, testers, potentially some SysOps DevOps engineers who are looking after our AWS platform, and then that's exactly what it sounds like, right? It's taking a proposed solution and implementing it on one of our software platforms.
Yeah, lovely. That's actually absolutely comforting, because I don't know, maybe it's just me. I was just feeling like, oh my god. It's alright. Yeah, my second question, is it more of traditional team, like waterfall methodology, or is it an agile team? Just trying to know more in terms.
Who wants to take that one? I can if no one else wants to.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah,
that's right.
So the answer to your question is that we take a hybrid approach to our projects, right? So
Okay.
we're generally driven by our stakeholders to do a fair bit of analysis up front. In a pure agile implementation, as you know, analysis is quite, just in time. Design is emergent. Whereas on our projects, we are generally doing it upfront through that discovery process that we talked about. We'll come up with a requirement specification and a proposed solution. So that is sort of waterfall-ish, but then we'll work through that in a Scrum fashion. So we're working in fortnightly sprints. We're having daily Scrums, trying to release often, doing sprint reviews, sprint retros, sprint planning, those sorts of things. So it's a hybrid approach. It's a Scrum implementation, but with Prince 2 governance on top. So to the hybrid approach, mainly to give our stakeholders who fund these projects the appropriate level of governance and visibility and comfort that they'll get the outcomes they're looking for out of the project. Feel free to jump in there, Maria, if I've missed the mark there.
No, I think that's spot on, really. And I think just given the Perth office and WA office, it could be a mixture of all that, right? So there could be a mixture of the work that you'll be doing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. That's all from me. Just want to know next steps, and then
So we're running a couple more interviews over this week and early next week. So I would imagine that we'll be able to come back to you possibly mid next week, ideally sooner, but we'll have to wait and see as to whether you progress to the next phase. I believe the next phase would be a second interview where we get a couple of other people to chat to you and potentially have you work through a short exercise as well.
Okay.
So that okay?
Yeah. That's good. Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
It was lovely to meet
Yeah,
you.
same here. Yeah. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Same here. Ah!